Earlier this year, Breaking the Set was joined by peace activist Cindy Sheehan. She, along with a group of dedicated writers, took a trip across the country called the Tour de Peace. Inspired what she learned on that journey and the support from a growing number of citizens disillusioned by the two-party system, Cindy has decided to run for governor of California on the Peace and Freedom Party ticket. She joined me earlier today to discuss her campaign and the biggest problems facing California. I asked her why she would choose to run for political office knowing the long odds for third-party candidates.
Well, because I'm with the Peace and Freedom Party. It's not one of the dominant corporate parties or war parties or the party of the bankers. It's not one of the parties of the establishment. And yes, running for office is a real establishment thing to do. But what my campaign is doing is we're actually talking about revolution. We're talking about not reforming the system, but overthrowing it and renewing it, and doing this by a community basis. Jerry Brown is running on, as a matter of fact, he's raised millions and millions of dollars for his campaign in 2014 when he hasn't even announced if he's running again. But he's running on this, his slogan of California is back. California is back for the corporations, for the oil companies, for the prison industrial complex, for privatized education, for the 1%, for the establishment. I am the candidate of the people. I'm the candidate of the revolution, because the revolution is looking to overthrow that system and put in place one that is healthier for us.
I wanted to ask you specifically about one issue, and that's the issue of police violence, especially in Southern California, where it's really turning into an epidemic. This week was National Day Against Police Brutality, and there was a 13-year-old that was executed by police for carrying a fake gun. This is a really important issue. As governor, what would you do to address this?
Well, the first thing that we would do is that we would have to overturn that police officers' Bill of Rights they have that protects them from accountability, that we would put in place in every community that has a police force. We would put in place citizen oversight, not police oversight of the actions of the police officers. And my heart goes out to that family in Santa Rosa where that happened, and my campaign will be there on Tuesday in solidarity with them and in protesting that terrible incident of brutality. But it's like you said, it's happening all over the state, and there has to be accountability. That's what the families are calling for, and Manny, that's what I've been calling for since my son was killed. Accountability to these people who murder people all over the world and in our state, whether it's the large militaries or the empire or these police forces. There has to be accountability.
Yeah, and Cindy, you unfortunately are one of the few people that are speaking out against this sort of thing, and California ends up being one of the, like a sort of microcosm for the bigger issues plaguing the country. Another issue is with overcrowded prisons and the prison industrial complex. In California, there was a recent hunger strike that just ended. The UN is now looking into California prison system. What do you think is the root of this problem, and what needs to be changed?
Well, I think the root of the problem is prisons for profit now and the prison industrial complex. Jerry Brown gets millions of dollars from the prison guard union and the private prisons like Corrections Corporations of America. And Brown was ordered by the federal government to release thousands of prisoners. And instead of doing that, he's taking the surplus that the state has of $1 billion, and he's giving it to these privatized prisons to open up beds or open up room for the people instead of releasing nonviolent offenders and people who are at low to no risk of recidivism.
How is it that corporations can have a louder voice than people? In California, support for labeling went from 61% to less than 50% because of those incessant ads that reached the people before the election. How can people's initiatives win against the corporatocracy?
Well, the initiative process was actually California led the way in the early part of the 20th century in this initiative, these progressive reforms to government, but the money has overtaken them. Look at Prop 8, the proposition against gay marriage. We had millions of dollars flowing from outside the state to defeat gay marriage here in California. What we need to do, and we're talking about this revolution, is give the people back control of the state. We need, and one of the reasons I constantly run for office, this is my third time, is to put these ideas, these alternatives into the dialogue, to say that money shouldn't buy candidates, money shouldn't buy propositions, that we should, that propaganda shouldn't be, that if there's going to be propaganda, that both sides of the issue should have a fair chance to, promote their case and their facts to the public, not just the side that has the most money. And of course, the GMO labeling, they raised $50 million to defeat that, where the pro-GMO people raised $8 million. And Manny, my thing is we have to go to the internet and research what companies supported Prop 37 and what companies, didn't support Prop 37, in fact, defeated it. And we have to support those companies that gave money to Prop 37 by buying their products that are already labeled, that they agreed to label them with no GMOs, and then we need to boycott the people who defeated Prop 37.
Indeed, we need to use our purchasing power to kind of drive these corporations into irrelevancy. Cindy, I wanted to ask you just one last question. We're running out of time. You support something called the Grange Movement, and I wanted to know exactly what that is and how you would implement this statewide. We have about a minute left.
Well, that's something California leads the world, is one of the world leaders in agriculture. We need to change from these big agribusinesses back to organic farming, and we need farm collectives and cooperatives. And the Grange Movement is a movement that these people farmers, organic small farmers can get together, that increases their purchasing power. It increases, the benefits when you have more people. You can get benefits, but it also builds this community that we're talking about for our revolution. And so Grange movements, we need community centers. We need, community councils that work with Sacramento, like Hugo Chavez did in Venezuela when he did his revolution. And we can work together to build California into a state, into a model, into a roadmap that hopefully the other 49 states can follow, and people around the world can look at California as this model of a people's revolution and a place to live where everybody has access to healthcare, education, a clean environment, healthy food, and shelter.
Indeed, Cindy, it's a revolution of values that is what this country, is what California needs. Thank you so much for taking the time. That was Cindy Sheehan, anti-war activist and candidate for California governor. Thank you so much.